We are almost rocking. We are talking about the nuances of that a buyer needs to know when they're touring a house. And if you're listening, you're wondering where you are, you're on the latest episode of We Fixed Real Estate.
Nice recovery there.
You
Very
like that?
smooth.
Like
Very smooth. Yes. Yeah. So let's do this as quick as we can. Just kind of give you an idea. People come to us for our buyer broker services, and they come at different times in their looking. They could have never looked at anything, or they could be looking for the last 10 years at open houses. And you got to understand one big thing that you're not thinking about, and that's the listing agent. They're not all the same. So here's what I mean. Um, there are brokers who have uh, occupied property. It's usually with occupied property, sometimes it's with empty properties, but they really want to know who's going into the house if they're doing a private showing and they're not going to be there. So, for example, we send out licensed agents all the time. That's who would accompany you. Um, because there's kind of an unwritten rule. Hey, they have to have an agent. Why? Because they don't trust people. There's been scammers. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. I'm sure you can,
shoplifters. I mean, pocket incident.
whatever. And, people trying to rob people in one way, shape, or form. A house means you got a lot of money. There's people coming who have money. How can we get to them? So, you have to protect the house. So sometimes even they will ask for a pre-approval or proof of funds before they show you the house, which I don't have a problem with. I would thank you very much. You're really protecting your homeowner. And then, try to meet people there is really the best way of doing it. Um, so just know that. The other thing is contacting them. You can say to them, and here's the safest way to do it, say, I either you have or you will be hiring a buyer broker. And I just wanted to get some information about the property. Can you help me with that? And, most of them will say, sure, what would you like to know? You know, and they can tell you just about things property, but don't negotiate with them. Also, we always tell our clients, don't sound like you're interested. Just you're there to get data. That's it, because we don't want them to remember you as the excitable people on the phone with them. Oh, I love this house. I love the location. I love the fact that it's, one block from my mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
Do people actually say that? Anyway, this will segue us into the next thing we're going to talk about, which is Drew's mother-in-law. Well, that's a different story. But anyway, just respect their time and space. We, as a buyer broker, I know I can only speak for us. We want to hear what property you want to go to and what questions you have, because we're going to find that out from the agent. We're also going to need to register for certain services that they have that alert us to updates about offer dates or additional documents that have been presented. So we need to be involved, or get your buyer broker involved in the process ASAP. But don't keep bothering the listing agent. They'll either remember you to add dollars to your offer, or they'll ignore you because you were a pain to them. So just think about it. And they're all going to be different. Some of them are going to, let you know everything and be great. Some of them will barely tell you anything. It's amazing the difference. Each seller is different. Each agent is different. So that's all I got.
Well,
So now let's segue to your mother-in-law.
well, no, I got a question on this. You mentioned,
Oh, you do? Okay.
you're talking about a buyer coming in trying to tour a property without a buyer's agent.
Yeah, you go to an
So
open
you're
house.
negotiating. You're just going to an open house, and
Yeah, go to an open house.
then I guess the big tip there is don't be too quick to sign a contract or a buyer
Oh,
broker.
well, that's the thing. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen with this buyer broker stuff, with going to open houses. It's all so stupid. It's probably, you put your name down and say, I have a buyer broker, even if you don't, because then the listing agent will be thrilled to come after you. I mean, it's just a recruitment
That seems like
facility
a
if
good
people
tip.
have to sign in. It'll be disgusting.
Mm.
And you know what? I won't do it. What is somebody going to do? Sue me? I don't want you as a buyer. If I have the listing,
Mhm. Yeah.
okay. If you want to pursue talking to me about buyer broker services, fabulous. I'm not there to solicit you. So you're there to see the house. I'm there to work for the seller, period.
But a lot of
That's
open
it.
houses are being shown by agents that aren't even the listing agent. They just
Oh, well,
see
that's pretty normal. That's a normal thing. The issue is the listing agent should be explaining things to this person who's going to be doing the showings.
Mhm.
We get calls all the time from agents. Hey, can I host your open house? No, you don't represent me. You don't represent the seller. You're just looking for buyers. This is
Mhm.
something they teach you to do at the big companies, to promote business. Well, we're not stupid enough to allow you to do that. We take care of everybody ourselves. So if you don't work for us, you're not going to sit at open house. It's just not going to happen.
That's good. And when you do visit an open house, unless you want to be considered fresh meat, just pretend, don't just tell them you're already working with a buyer agent.
Or
Or
you're looking for a buyer broker.
but don't commit them.
You don't want to do dual agency under any circumstances. That's
Mm.
another thing to add, because dual agency means one person represents both you and someone else. It's like having one lawyer who's going to prosecute and defend you.
Mhm.
It makes no sense.
Sure. Now, what are some of the other nuances of like touring a house that like the first time buyer would want to pay attention to?
Here's the hardest thing to do is don't go in there with any emotion. Be cold as ice, looking at everything.
Mhm.
But imagine yourself living there. Imagine, getting up in the morning, what's going to happen and the flow, coming
Mhm.
home at the end of the day, hanging out on a Saturday afternoon. You know, if you party a lot, is the yard going to be big enough for your tables and chairs and kid stuff or whatever? Just will the house work for you? Usually you can feel it, but sometimes you just got to take your time and walk through once and then walk through again
And
with
then
that in
also,
mind.
and this still ties into the next segment, though. You got to imagine how long are you going to be there? You may think you're only going to be there for a year, but if you're going to be there for 10 years, 15 years, will the house still be suitable for you in 10 years? Where we're getting into this topic of aging in place, which is very close to my mind, heart right now, since my mother-in-law, she's getting out of the assisted living facility tomorrow. And
Ah,
and we're having to try to navigate her back up her second story. Her garage is on the bottom. Her house living area is on the second floor. But the only way to get to the second floor is to go up an exterior flight of stairs.
oh, you need to get a couple guys from Home Depot that can, just lift her in a wheelchair.
Carry her up.
I'm serious.
You can make it up the stairs. But the idea is think about the future and think about what family members might be coming over to that house. I mean, maybe you don't want any family members coming over to the house, so you buy a 3-story walk up. So, a
In
third floor
Silver
walk up.
Lake, yeah, or in San Francisco. Yeah,
And then,
perfect.
oops, sorry, can't come over here. But if it is important to you that mobility is, or the lack of it in your future, you need to think about that, or think about what adjustments you might be able to make when the time comes. In my mother-in-law's instance, the house was set up perfectly to have a lift built in, just with the way that the flat was. So we're now orchestrating this nice interior lift, which is going to add value to the property. It's going to actually really just enhance her living, even if in 2 to 3 weeks she gets back to normal mobility. So
So
that's
this is between a first and second story elevator.
it's between a first story and a second story elevator, but it's called the lift because you got to have the button pushed the whole time.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Stilts lifts. I want to put it up on the screen.
Yeah,
If
these
you're
elevators gotten so much cheaper. And if you looked at it 10 years, thought the price was nuts. Now it's nothing.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the screen, this is the one we decided on, and basically it goes up from one floor to the other. The curious thing
People
about
don't look very ambulatory. Ah, there's mom who sort of kind of needs some help. Okay.
yeah, she's going for the Trio Alta, and kind of the way of this house is that you send it back down, and then you only just see those two bars.
Right.
Yeah, so this is something that could be considered.
It's what you can do with used telephone booths.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
It does.
Except in this instance, in our instance, we're able to, the way her house was situated, we're able to get a lift in an enclosed room down in the garage. So you're down there, she's gaining space. And then it goes up and we're building a little closet around it right by her front door. So we're not going to have to
Nice.
any foot traffic. So in the future, or when people start looking at it, if we were to sell, we aren't selling it, or she's not selling it. Sue, if you're listening to this, we're not selling your house. But it's going to make it more livable for her because she gets wall space, and it doesn't look like she's got these two bars coming up.
Fabulous.
That all leads into aging in place, which is one of the other things as a home buyer, I think is more important for me now than it was maybe a year ago, is think about it. You may be living in that house a lot longer than you want to.
Like I was saying, the elevators got so much cheaper. You know, there's things we haven't even thought of that are going to be invented for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be amazing down the road.
Well, she didn't want to just, I mean, she didn't want to just put that little seat on the side of a staircase and go up her exterior staircase. That would be the low budget option, but you'd be ripping that out if you were ever to sell that house. This is something that could actually add value to the house, or as a VRBO. And we've talked about that on this.
Yeah, we had a listing in Redwood City about 2 or 3 years ago where it was a very nice property, but the one thing it had going against is you had these straight up the mountain stairs to get way up to this landing area.
Oh, I remember that.
Beautiful. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
But I went and got a quote for an outdoor elevator.
It's like an inclinator.
An inclinator, yeah. And it was like 150 grand.
Whoa.
And I'm wondering how much cheaper they are now.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah, I remember that was a big lot. In the amount of space you would gain, especially if you kind of terrace. Remember that property. As long as you terraced each one of those, you may think 150 grand's a big price, but in Peninsula Bay Area real estate, that's going to add a ton of value to the house.
Yeah, easily I would, without even thinking about, go up $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
Easily.
Yeah, this flip we're doing is about 40 grand. It's not, I mean, for what you're getting and for install and everything, it's not, we're definitely going to increase the property value from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So,
all right. I got no more words of wisdom for this.
No more words of wisdom. This is the first.
Yeah.
This is a first. Then I guess that's it, guys.
And Renee's still at a walkthrough. If you don't know what a walkthrough is, right before closing, you get a chance to walk through and make sure that everything's the same as you saw it before and nothing's damaged. The staging company didn't rip out a wall. So that's where he's at. So he's on there pretty long. There must be something going on, and then we deal with it. And there's 100 million ways of dealing with it, depending on what it is.
So it should be quick, but he goes in and figures out the refrigerator is supposed to convey, and it didn't. It's gone. And
that's one thing that can happen. Yep. Like, whoops. We got a contract, dude. So need a credit.
Yeah.
For the aggravation credit.
Yeah. So
anyway.
Maybe next episode we'll do some tips on what to do with the final walkthrough.
Oh, that's a good. We'll tease you with that.
We had the home buying, the open house nuances. Next episode we'll do the final walkthrough nuances.
Cool.
Another awkward close. This has been another episode of, well, that wasn't even awkward, but now it is. Another episode of We Fixed Real Estate.
Blah, 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 blah.
There we go.
Mess it up.